Hello, welcome to another episode of Insights with Latrese. I am so glad you decided to join me again for another episode. Hope all is well with you. I'm just going to be real transparent and honest with you. Whew, this has been a week already, and we're like only Tuesday. But yesterday, my uncle passed away from COVID 19, and the day before, my cousin did. So, what we're going to talk about today is good. It's timely because we're going to talk about grief and other things with mental health. But yeah, I've had to process that and still kind of try and function throughout the day. But before we get into it and before I introduce my guest, who I'm so elated and excited that he's with us today, talk to me about the episodes that you're watching. I get text messages, I get calls, but give me some more information. Let me know how it's helping you, and if it is helping you, because that's what these particular episodes are about, to help you during COVID 19, because we've never seen this before. And so, anytime I can give some insight, some tools to get you through, because a lot of times we think when we go through things that it's just us, right? And it's not. If you may have a question or if you may be challenged with something, it's always good to have a community. And so that's what this is about. And if I have not touched on a topic that you need to know about or would like to know more about, tell me that. Give me that information, because it's all about you. It's all about how I can service you in this capacity, in this platform. So please, hey Monica, I see you're there. How you doing? So please tell me, let me know. And of course, I'm going to just remind you, if you're not following me on the gram, the Twitter, of course, Facebook, then let's go ahead and do that at Treese Kabuya. And then my podcast, we actually turn my Facebook Lives into podcasts, and that's on Spotify, Apple, and Google. And while we're watching this, because this is so important, this topic, you know what? Share this. Have a watch party. Get people involved in this, because this is this is this is going to be heavy, right? And it's a real issue that we need to talk about, especially in my African American community. We kind of sweep over it, or pretty much sweep it under the rug. And I know growing up, you didn't talk about mental health. You didn't talk about your emotions, right? We just made through. We didn't talk about trauma. It was just like, oh, it happened, grow up, you're good. And then you're still that person with the trauma as an adult, and it just manifests in different ways of your life that are not positive. And so I'm definitely an advocate for therapy. Hey Patrick. I'm definitely, I have a therapist, and as you guys know, my path is on that path to being a therapist as well. But my mentor said every therapist needs a therapist. So, so I don't have a problem with that, because I've experienced a lot of trauma in my past as a youth. And so it's definitely helped me, and it's given me tools, and it's equipped me, to be the best version of myself. And that's what's important, and that's what's necessary and needed. Hey, Teresa, Samantha, how you guys doing tonight? So I definitely embrace therapy. I want, if anyone has a shirt or can tell me where I can get a shirt that says Jesus and therapy. I just need it in my life. And maybe add coffee to it. Jesus, therapy, and coffee. Wait a minute. Jesus, therapy, coffee, and Olivier. How about that? Them four things in my life. Oh, yeah, and them kids I got. Never mind. Let's just do Jesus and therapy. Let's just do that and be done with it. All right, guys, make sure you're sharing this. I'm getting ready to introduce my guest, which I'm so, can I say tickle pink and not lose any points? cool points, but I am tickled pink, right? Hey guys that are joining. Um, I'm elated. Let me tell you, Teresa just threw up. Listen, I'm going to talk about Olivier. Let me tell you. But my guest, let's talk about my guest, who I am so excited and elated that he has joined me. He is now my new friend. He does not quite know that yet, but I've already accepted him as such. But this is how I met this doctor. I was sent probably 4 or 5, maybe 6 times, some viral videos. One was of the doctors, these African American doctors, doing the Don't Rush challenge. And, I was like, okay, cool. They're handsome, they're neat, yes, represent. But in that, I was looking for, is there a therapist? That's what I wanted to see. And of course there was. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna reach out to him. And then I was like, he's probably being reached out to a lot. So I wanted to make sure, it was very professional and all that good stuff. But what in the past couple of weeks that we kind of talked back and forth via media, he's a nice guy, and I got an opportunity to really talk to him. And so he's my friend for life. He just doesn't realize it quite yet. So Dr. Joshua Anthony is a psychiatrist in Tennessee, and he has done 2 or 3 viral Don't Rush, and he just shared with me he has another one that he did, and I asked if I could at least have one. Can I be in just one? I want to go viral at least one time. One time. That's all I'm asking. And so, without further ado, thank you, doctor. How are you?
I'm doing all right. How are you doing?
I'm good, Dr. Joshua. Yes, one time for Dr. Joshua. I'm
Right.
so elated that you're here. How's the family? How's your fiance? How's everyone doing in this pandemic?
We're making it.
Yeah,
uh, yeah, I think that's probably very similar to everyone else around the country, taking one day at a time.
yeah. And you are still, I understand, seeing patients. Is that correct?
Yes. Hmm.
Okay. Now you're seeing a lot of them virtual.
Yes. Either by telephone or like video conference.
Okay. Is that hard for you?
Um, by telephone is a little difficult. Um, because I guess as psychiatrists, we really rely on being able to see our patients, their body movements, their facial expressions, just how they're relating in general, helps us to form our assessment. So not being able to see them, that takes away a huge tool, from
Right.
our arsenal.
Okay, okay. Hey, Jason, I just see you entered in. Hey, Kirsten. So let's start talking about it. We know that so many things are affecting us because Rona is being very disrespectful, and we need for her to go. Okay. However, until then, we really need to talk about the subject matter of mental health. I was looking at an article right before this episode, and of course, the relationship abuse, has skyrocketed again, right? I'm seeing suicides more again because people are not dealing well with what's happening. We've never seen this. People are losing their jobs, people are losing their patients. First of all, mental health. Explain what that is to our audience, because people are scared of this word or these 2 words, mental health. Explain that to us, doctor.
So it's funny that you asked that, because next month is actually Mental Health Awareness Month.
Okay,
May
perfect.
1st. Yes, one of my colleagues, she's actually starting a campaign, and the campaign is mental health is just health. So the same way you think about your physical health, it really is the same way you should think about your mental health. It's essential to you being able to function emotionally and physically, and it's an essential part of just your overall health.
Okay. So, hey, let me just say this. Hey, Jenny. Hey, Miss Nora. Please share this. Let people come in and listen to Dr. Joshua because we're about to knock some mental health um, conversation out. And we will get to that, Teresa. I see your question, hun. I'm going to get to his information at the end. So, with mental health, right, and it's just like any other type of health, we have to make sure we're taking care of it. Why do you think people are scared, Dr. Joshua, to talk about mental health? Why is it this it's almost stigma that as soon as I say mental health, we think crazy. And that's not that. That's not it. Correct?
Oh no, it's not. That's not it at all. I think for a lot of people, when you get down to it, dealing with issues that affect your mental health, those things tend to be personal. They tend to be intimate. They may be things that we don't want to think about anymore, experiences that we don't want to relive. It's the culmination of all of those things. So when you talk about mental health with a lot of people, usually, or a lot of times, a reaction is, I don't want to deal with that right now. I'm
Yep.
fine. I don't have to. But what they don't realize is that, when you don't deal with those things, they actually keep you from living your best life. Um,
Okay.
yeah.
So when you say we don't deal with it, would this be a fair statement? Um, it will eventually manifest negatively in your life as an adult. Because if you experience trauma as a youth and it's never dealt with properly, and that's a lot of us, right? When so a lot of times when we're saying, "Oh, Miss Smith is a bitter old woman," well, it's based on that trauma that is still resonating in her life, in her memory bank. Talk to me about that.
Oh, yeah. So, there was a study that was conducted by the CDC and Kaiser, I believe, and it surrounded these things called adverse childhood experiences, adverse childhood events, and basically what they showed from these experiences was that they could pretty much directly correlate the number or amount of traumatic experiences that a person had as a child. They could directly correlate that to the individual's risk factors for several things as an adult. So their health risk factors, their risk factors for being in prison later on in life. So basically, they were just able to show that things that you experience as a child will manifest as an adult, and that can either be a positive manifestation or a negative manifestation.
And with that said, now with COVID 19, if you were already challenged in your mental health, it possibly can take you over. And that's why now we're reading about these suicides and the abuse that is taking place. So how do we combat that? Because like I said, Rona is showing out. She ain't trying to leave, and we got to continue to pray and get her on out. But even aftermath, it's still going to have some effect because people are scared. You know, I was in a situation where I had my mask and gloves on because I do the most. And if you keep pushing me, I'm gonna have a whole space suit on.
That's
But
nice.
but the lady was coming towards me. I said, "No, ma'am, no, 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 ma'am." And she's like, "I'm 6 feet." I said, "I need 12. I just need 12, okay?" But am I going to do the same thing in August and September? So what I'm saying is there's a fear that has resonated, unfortunately, and I know faith. I just did an episode on faith over fear. But this is affecting us, right?
Yeah, definitely. So I think like maybe one of the biggest things to remember is that um, the things that we're feeling, the reactions that we're having, those are actually normal reactions. Um, the way that coronavirus has kind of swept over the globe as a pandemic, it makes it a natural disaster. And so when you think about the way that people respond to natural disasters, whether it's tornado, hurricane, earthquakes. Those are very similar to reactions that people are having now. So you can have psychiatric and behavioral reactions that you can kind of start seeing um, pop up across the population. So that's depression, PTSD, there's anxiety. Uh, Specifically with this, there's complex grief. We have family members that are passing, and we may or may not be able to, go to their funeral. We may not be able to be by their side when they pass. And those are things that we're going to have to process now and later on. We're going to have to deal with the guilt that we may feel from those things. Um, and because of this, sometimes that causes risky behaviors to increase. So you brought up household violence, interpersonal violence. That kind of goes hand in hand with there being like an increased consumption of alcohol now because people are at home
Yeah.
now. An increased consumption of tobacco and even prescription medication. So you know, alcohol and violence definitely don't mix. And being inebriated definitely increase the occurrences of household and interpersonal violence. Um, but then we also have to remember that this virus is actually disrupting our lives. So um, some people have lost their jobs. Um, a lot of people, if they have kept their jobs, they're working from home, which is new. Children are home from out of school. Like this has caused disruption to our lives across the board. So we may see changes in sleep
Mhm.
um, all around. Like you said, with the lady who went 12 feet, there's a decreased sense of
Yeah.
safety. There's this virus that we can't see, but it's out there. Um, there are physical symptoms. So there's these symptoms that we call somatic symptoms. It's when you have physical symptoms, but there's no medical explanation for them,
Yeah.
and that is also something that during times like this can burden the healthcare system because there are a lot of people that are experiencing symptoms that may be, very similar to coronavirus symptoms, but they're not actually sick. But those somatic symptoms is kind of a conversion from the anxiety or the fear or
Yeah.
the depression that you're feeling is converting into a physical symptom of those things. And that's why one of the reasons why your mental health is so important because those things can transfer from mental to physical, um, to physical showing of what you're feeling. Um, but then we also have an increase in irritability, increase of avoidance and isolation. Um, and so it's kind of like, man, gumbo jambalaya, like it's like
Yeah.
a recipe for for different mental health conditions to manifest or be exacerbated during this time.
Okay. Great information. I have two questions for you from the audience. So let me get to the first one. Um, and all of you guys who are listening and watching, please ask your questions. Any tools the doctor can share that we can put into our lives on a daily basis to combat the anxiety during this time? What would you recommend? Which, Teresa, that was actually my next question for the doctor. So, what would you recommend?
So that's actually a great question. So I have like three main things: is stay informed, stay organized, and stay connected. So number one, stay informed. You need to know what's going on. However, you don't have to overburden yourself with the amount of information that's coming from the news and from all these different sources every day. So really, you only probably need to watch the news like once a day, because if you watch it all day, it's just
Yeah,
repeating itself over and over.
yeah,
So have a trusted source of news that you get information from. And then after you get your information, limit the intake of that news during the day. Um, After that, like make sure you use social media responsibly. So whether we like it or not, when we're scrolling down our feeds, there's a lot of information from different places. There's conspiracy theories, 5G is causing coronavirus,
yeah.
all of that coming from
Everything.
different places. Like you don't need all of that in your life.
Yeah. It's an overload, a
Yeah.
negative overload.
Hmm.
And so, what was the third?
Oh yeah. So after that, stay organized. So during this time, especially with a lot of people being at home more, it's excuse me, it's important for them to stay on a schedule and even develop new routines. So they have to maintain their nutrition, their hydration,
Yeah.
and make sure that their sleep schedules stay pretty solid. If you're on medication, make sure that you continue to take your medication as prescribed. And if you're unable to see your doctor as regularly as you would before, it might be a good idea to have a conversation with your doctor about maybe increasing your refill to maybe a 90-day refill as opposed to a 30-day, just so you can stay consistent, especially if you're taking psychiatric medication. You usually don't want to miss any of your prescribed any of your prescription days. Um, and then the third thing, or excuse me, so the last part of that of staying organized is if you're working from home, you also want to make sure that you give yourself boundaries. So give yourself boundaries between your workspace and your personal space, because now that you're at home, it's very easy to kind of like, blur the lines between the two, and you don't want to do
Yeah.
that for your own mental health. The last one was stay connected. So even though we're social distancing, you should try to think of social distancing as physical distance with increased social connection. So this actually gives us more time to become more connected with ourselves and more connected with the people that we love. So you can use this time for introspection. Uh,
Yeah.
are there any hobbies that you know that you really like that you haven't picked up any time? Is there something about yourself that you need to work on? This is a great time to do that. Do you need to reconnect spiritually? Um, when we see patients, we actually consider spirituality and religion to be a protective factor. When we're looking at factors that, say, influence a person's risk for self harm or for suicide, spirituality and religion is a protective factor. You can also set time aside specifically for your family. So have movie nights, have game nights. Um, Also, you want to consider, like, if you have children, small children, say you have older children that are coming back home from college because the semester's been cut short, you may need to manage those expectations with your family members now, because for your college children, they're getting used to this increased independence, and now they're back home. You know, there's these rules that they thought they had gotten away from. Those are conversations that you need to have with your family, with each other. With your children, you need to, make sure that you are giving them a sense of security, because they're going to emulate the emotions that they see you uh, come from you. So, explain to them the importance of hand washing, explain to them the importance of social distancing, but also make sure that you're giving them a lot of love and affection, and that they feel safe. Um, and then, with your friends and family, look for ways to stay in contact. Yeah, FaceTime, Zoom, send emails, uh,
Or
send.
my podcast.
Yeah. Hmm.
Join in on my podcast as a family.
Yeah. Hmm.
Good, good
Those
answer.
are all ways to
So,
manage.
um, I want to piggyback real quick, Doctor, on the kids aspect because I have a question. It says, how, in his medical expert opinion, does he believe this pandemic will affect our children? And you kind of touched on it a little bit. And what can we parents do to help our children through this? And I know, just speaking from experience, we did bring a child home from college and we did have to have several conversations because they did not connect the two, that this was serious, that this pandemic. And then with the younger girls, same conversation piece. And I had my girls on last week regarding how each of them were affected. So, for parents who did not see that episode, go back to that episode. It's really good, and watch it with your children because I think sometimes children, if they see other kids their age handling something in a certain way, they'll kind of copycat that. But can you kind of speak on that? I know that I'm getting the look. We're short on time, so we'll make it quick. Go
Okay.
ahead.
So really, how they will be affected, that depends on how their parents deal with this pandemic. During this time, you do want to make sure that you manage their intake of media. Make sure that that's very controlled. But really, my grandfather, he grew up through the Great Depression, uh,
Uh-huh.
and when I asked him about that time, he doesn't even remember it,
Wow.
because he was a child. So the impact to young children can actually be pretty minimal if you make them feel safe and secure during this time.
Oh, wow. Now that was powerful. Wow. I have another question, and I'm going to piggyback off this question. What if we find ourselves in a crisis or a loved one in a crisis? Does the doctor have a crisis hotline number to share? We're going to talk about that at the very end. However, like for me, I'm getting ready to get free therapy. But for those that are grieving, I lost two family members, an uncle and a cousin, within 24 hours of each other. So, there's the stress, the just everything that would attack the mental health. And you've touched on what to do, how to do it, minimize some things. But it's okay to feel. And I think we need to talk about that really quick before we let you go. That it is okay to have those normal, anxiety and sadness and, anxiousness, all those different emotions. Jesus was emotional when he went to the cross, right? He was like, listen, in my paraphrasing Bible, take this from me. Can you please? Well, because he didn't want to go through it, but then he said, God, your will be my will. So with that said, is it okay, doctor, to feel, to
Oh yeah.
honestly feel?
And like I said, the reactions that people are experiencing during this time, they're normal reactions, they're expected. So it doesn't make sense to, like, you shouldn't feel bad that you're having them or that you feel a certain way. You just have to process those emotions. You have to think about them. It's okay to talk about them. It's really good to talk about them.
Yeah.
But it's not so great to, try to push them back in the corner and not deal with them.
And be tough. And that's what has happened. And that's why I think the stigma on mental health is what it is, because we've always had to try and be strong. And so when you're strong, you don't feel, you don't, or so you think, you don't, yeah, you feel, you're just keeping it from keeping it on the inside. And so, one last question, then we're going to get your information. Um, do you believe that this pandemic and cause PTSD can cause PTSD for someone in the future?
Oh yeah, definitely.
We kind of talked on that. Yeah.
Yeah, so like I said, this is a natural disaster the same way that an earthquake or a tornado is a natural disaster. And so there are, several traumatic events during this time that are happening. And we're learning more and more about PTSD and, how people experience it. And, for some individuals, they can almost experience PTSD by proxy through
Mm.
else. This is no exception, and I think we should definitely expect to see individuals that are having symptoms of PTSD in the future.
Well, and you said something that I thought was very profound. We have to really make our mental health healthy, just like we do our physical bodies, right? Because you can think on some things, right? And that's why the word of God talks about think on things that are lovely, of good report, that are pure, because you can literally make yourself sick or make you think you have some type of Rona symptoms just because that mind is so powerful. And so we have to definitely make sure that we have control over the mind and deal with this mental health. And that to me is what I just strive to do. And you and I talked about that earlier before this broadcast, that I want to pull that stigma off of mental health and therapy. Mental health is okay. It's what you feel, is what happens, but it's how we handle it. And we don't want to just put it to the side. We want to be the best version of ourselves, and that's a healthy um, mindset, mental health. So let's talk about it, doctor. I hate to close up, but I could keep you here all day and turn the cameras off, and I have my therapy session, and I just have to cash app you. But if people want to get a hold of you and see if you carry their insurance, and can do it virtually, because you're in Nashville, right?
Yes, I'm in
Nashville.
Nashville, Tennessee.
So what information can you give us so we can follow you and meet,
So you can follow me on most social media sites: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, at the Therapy Doc. Um, And if you have any questions, like, feel free to send me a DM or anything like that. I believe my program, Meharry Medical College, they do offer telemedicine. So if you have any questions about that, just let me know and I can give you the information.
absolutely. And you guys, you can also reach out to me and I can talk to him and get the information needed to exchange so that he can help you in your mental health. And also, don't forget, he's in 2, 3 viral chat. Don't rush challenges. And I'm just going to hats off to you. I'm so proud of you. I think that you and the other doctors represent the Black community so well in that. And I've seen a lot of don't rush challenge. I'm asking my daughter, I'm old, and to just and then you had a mask challenge where you put the mask on.
Yes,
You know,
go
I'm just like, I'm just asking one time, one video with me, just so I can go
out.
viral. That just one. Well, I'm gonna close, but before I close, give us, I mean, you've given us so much meat and it's been excellent. But if you could give one last insight to the people, if that's an encouraging word or just advice, what would that be?
Oh, man. So definitely, try not to be too hard on yourself. We are very goal oriented in the U.S. We don't really know how to relax that well. Be easy on yourself. This is a difficult time, um, and you don't have to, conquer the world every day. It's okay to feel down some days. Everybody goes through the same thing, so you're not in this alone. We're all in this together. Rely on your friends and family, and I think we'll all be fine through this time. We'll all make it.
Amen. Thank you, Dr. Joshua. I appreciate you. God bless you. Thank you so much for being a part of Insights with Latrese. This definitely will go down in the books as one of the best. This was some great information. Thank you so much, sir.
Agree with you.
And guys, let me tell you, that was good. That was meaty. I know I needed it. We're dealing with a lot of things, a lot of losses. I lost I keep saying I lost my uncle and my cousin and just I mean, just the freedom we were used to. But my insight would be whether we're in this COVID-19 situation, this crisis, this trauma, or if we go back to some type of normal, deal with this mental health issue. We say all the time, I'm living my best life. I'm living my best life. Are you really? Are you healthy mentally? Do you have childhood trauma, as the doctor was talking about, that affects you now as an adult? Is it manifesting in ways of fear, anger, bitterness, abusiveness, addiction? It is okay to get help. It is smart to get help so you can live your best life and be the best version, the version that God had planned for you. Starts with that inner healing, right? And my mentor said to me, every therapist needs a therapist. And he also said that think of therapy as like when you get your car maintenance, right? Whether your car is broke down or not, you still go get the oil change, you go take care of it because it needs to stay maintained so it doesn't break down. That's what therapy is for mental health. It helps you maintain because this life, there's things that hit us like 1-2 punch, right? And we don't quite know how to deal with it. But therapy will help you process it. Therapy will help you get through it, give you tools you need to overcome so you can live your best life. So take the stigma off of mental health, take the stigma off of therapy, and get you your help. God gives us prayer, and he also gives us another strategy, and that is therapy. So live your best life and live it healthy and whole. Until next time, we're going to continue another conversation on mental health. That's going to be Thursday with Dr. Sharon. And I'm telling you, you saw how he was coming out with some bullets, just knocking us out. It's going to be the same thing on Thursday. We're going to talk about myths of mental health, some of the myths versus truth. Because again, we don't really know because we haven't really tapped into this arena. And I think it's very important, especially now in COVID-19. So join me Thursday. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your mama nim and your papa nims to meet me back here Thursday at 7 p.m. Central Time, so we can continue the conversation. But until then, thank you once again. Keep safe, keep yourself safe, wear your mask. Like I said, don't be 6 feet, be 12 feet away from me. I need you to be far, and let them know that. Take care of yourself, get your rest, allow yourself to have time for yourself, give yourself grace, and we'll see you on Thursday. Don't forget the three reals: real life, real you, real good. Live a real good, best life. See you then.